Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Riderpiece Theater. Me, Alistair Dayhawk, and tonight, me proud to present this tale of revenge and forgiveness of Kamen Rider Gavv, episode 38. This is a story of revenge. You have two people involved in their revenge tour. On one corner, you have Hanto, who is very confused and conflicted on how to avenge his poorly departed mama, as now, since last week, he has discovered his mama's kidnapper, the wolf Ganyu that he's been searching for years, and he's right there before him. But unfortunately, there's too many complications for him to ignore that he cannot do the deed, do the avenging type of thing. And then on the other corner, you have crazy Jeebh, who is currently right now being haunted by Shita's ghost, and he is becoming more crazier by the episode. He right now is driven by revenge. Everything he placed against his bastard brother has failed miserably, and he's at that breaking point where he will get super desperate that he is willing to use the very same powers his brother uses in order to kill him. That's how desperate he is. So we begin our tale of revenge at the Happy Parade offices, where Shita and Shoma are in shock that they couldn't believe what they saw last week. A guy Newt, saved the human, but this is not any old guy Newt. It's the same guy Newt that took Mama Hanto away all those years ago. And Hanto is having one of his temper tantrums, and he is, getting angry, frustrated, and he knows that, just because he saved Hiroto, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna let it slide, that next time I'm gonna kill him right there and then. And Shoma made the right call. He's like, look, before you do anything, I think it's best to talk to him, get his side of the story before you make any rash decisions about taking your revenge. He's right, of course. Shoma is right. And so as they're trying to digest what happened and making their next move, we turn to another revenge kid named Jeebh. Jeebh is talking to Shita's disguise once again. I mean, guys, he is so far gone that he is using Shita's old disguise and just walks around it, talks to it through the mirror. It's just proves that he hasn't really gotten over Shita's death at all. And because of it, he has gone crazy. He wants revenge. But his revenge tour led to Lango's apparent demise. And amongst other things, like, throwing his entire family under the bus and selling out his family to the president and his wife. So, his revenge tour is really taking everybody down. And we get to this flashback, and Nave shows up and offers Jeebh a solution to his problem, which is, hey, I'm willing to operate on you and give you the same powers as our bastard little brother. You could become a Kamen Rider, Jeebh. And Jeebh was like, hell no. Are you really serious that I am going to use, I have to use the same powers as him in order to kill him? Have you lost your mind? Because anything involving Shoma, they hate, right? including, using, the same Gavv. And so he says, hell no, but Nave brought out an excellent point where, I mean, look at you. I mean, do you have another solution to your problem? I mean, think of it this way. If I operate on you and you gain the same powers as our brother, maybe there's a chance for you to actually succeed in killing him, right? And, Jeebh is really, at a crossroads because he's like, okay, I want to kill him, but do I have to use, the enemy's powers in order to get what I want? And so we get to the present time and, he's talking to, quote unquote Shita. He doesn't know what to do. I want to avenge you, but in order to do so, I have to use our bastard brother's powers in order to avenge you. And then Lizelle shows up and tells Jeebh that, you have to, have courage. You have to be brave for your sister's sake. And, it just leads to, Jeebh, really making a choice here. But it's obvious what he's going to pick. So we go to Rakita. He visits Dente one more time. Only this time he wants Dente to fix his driver. And Dente, says to Rakita, I'm surprised that you've been asking me for help lately. I can't complain, but I mean, considering that you have a personal grudge against me, it must be hard to ask me for help. And Rakita responded with, well, I'm a sinner too, and let's just leave it at that. But Rakita knows that he has no choice but to seek out Uncle Dente's help, because who else can, fix the driver and do other things? Because Dr. Nick is dead, and there's no way in hell that Nave is willing to help our heroes because he is on the villain's side. So Rakita knows that for good or ill, he is in need of Dente's help because he's the only guy new that is willing to help him and whatnot. And again, I'm happy that he didn't die, but it's just I don't like how the writers or Toei, whoever is behind the creative ideas of the show, be like, hey, let's just play around with our audience and just pull the rug underneath them by, having these 3 near-death experiences. And I'm just like, if you're gonna kill him, just kill him. Just kill him off already. But that by killing him off, our heroes will be at a disadvantage. And of course, Hanto cannot go to a regular hospital because of this minute organ that's inside him. So yeah, Dente is safe for now. But, I just don't like how they try to, pull this whole death scene 3 times. And I'm like, are you going to kill him or not? Just, if you want to kill him, just do it already. Jeez. So we go to Shoma, Sashika, and Hanto. They visit the Wagashi store. And they were greeted by Hiroto and the mom. And then Kenji comes out soon after. And so we get to see Sashika trying to distract the mom and Hiroto by pulling them aside and talking to them about their social media page and how could she improve it, while Kenji knows that I know why you're here. Let's just take it outside. And so Kenji leaves, followed by Hanto and Shoma. And we immediately go to the next scene where they are in a temple. And we get to hear, Kenji's origin story. And his origin story is pretty much he used to own a candy shop at the Ganyu world. but something happened that made him decide to close down shop and led him to the dark streets and became a part-time worker at the stomach mafia. And he went to the earth world and he started to kidnap people, because back then they didn't have this machine whatever to change humans into spices or presses. So they had to do it the old school way, which is kidnapping people on the spot. And Hanto, in the middle of his story, just grabs him by the shirt and just like, have you have any idea what you have done? All those people that you killed. And Kenji understood, like, yeah, like, I understand that I have done terrible things. I get it. And then he started to continue on with the story about he was stationed at the Wagashi store, and this is where he met the shop owner and his wife, and something changed in him to make him stop kidnapping people, which is the owner showing him how to make Japanese treats, which led him to to be reminded of how he loved to make sweets back in the Ganyu world, and just led him to decide that I no longer want to kidnap people. I just want to live this life in peace, to work with the master and just repay him for what he has done for me. Hence what he said before last week. And so, he stopped his life of crime and he wanted to reform, which he did. And by the end of his story, he asked Hanto, just let me get my affairs in order, and and I will face my fate. And he leaves, and it causes both Shoma and Hanto to be like, well, Shoma said that, well, based on what he said, he got the impression that, yeah, there's no way that he's lying. I believe he's telling the truth. He's being genuine. And Hanto being Hanto, be like, I understand, like, I know he's telling the truth. I didn't sense that he was a liar or anything like that, which makes his job of avenging his mother, become tough or tougher. Because now, hearing his story, you kind of feel bad for this man or this Ganyu. And now, there is the mother and Hiroto involved, because, he has grown attached to those two people, and I'm sure Hiroto is the same with him. So, again, it's just too many complications for Hanto to ignore, and it's not that simple. Yeah, it's not that simple. So he is really frustrated. He's getting frustrated. He's feeling confused, conflicted, because all he wants to do is just avenge his mom. But it's just too many obstacles to avenge her. So, yeah, I kind of feel for Hanto, but this is like his ultimate test to see how much he has changed from the old Hanto. Because if it was the old Hanto, then it would have been a different story. He would have been killed almost immediately if it were the old Hanto. So after that sad story, we go to Gota, and she is beating up part-timers who are not producing results, and warns them that if you do not procure any more spices, then your lives are forfeit. And those three Ganyuns that were in disguise runs away, and Gota decides that in order for them to really understand that I'm not joking, I'm not bluffing, I need to find some guy new who I can make an example of. And she gets this tablet and sees this list of Ganyutes. And yeah, that's it there. And we go to as the Ganyu world turns. Jeebh wakes up from the operating table, so he made his choice. He wakes up with his brand new Gavv, and he just becomes crazy, like, oh, this is my beautiful Gavv, and he asks Nave that now that I have this Gavv, does it guarantee me, victory? Am I gonna get my revenge? And he's got the crazy eyes and all that, and Nave is like, look, your surgery is a success, but in order to get your revenge, I think that's up to you, right? I mean, I'm not gonna guarantee you anything. And he gives Jeebh a gachizo for him to use, and Lizelle gives Jeebh the good luck, and that was it there. And yeah, Jeebh is still with the crazy eyes. We go to the confused, conflicted Hanto. He is talking to himself, and he is very confused and conflicted because he wants to avenge Mama, but he knows that he cannot do it because it's not that simple. And he just wants to, like, if his mom were here, what would she say to him? Because he's like, I want to avenge you, Mom, but is this really what you want me to do? Yep, and that's it there. And then we get to Rakira. He's back home at the old Dr. Nick office. He has his driver fixed, and looks like he was about to take a nap. And all of a sudden, Shoma shows up and just wants to talk to Rakira about the whole Hanto and Kenji situation. And speaking of which, we go back to the Wagashi store. Hanto was there, and he decides to take a peek inside the kitchen, where we get to see Hiroto and Kenji working together, creating the Japanese animal treats. And then Hiroto spots Hanto, quote-unquote, spying, and they have a brief talk. And this is where I believe Hanto regrets asking Hiroto this question, but he asked the boy, do you like Kenji? And Hiroto replies, of course I do. Because of him, the store would have been closed a long time ago. He's very good at what he does, and I want to learn from him. And once I grow up, I want to work alongside with this man. And yeah, you can tell that Hiroto is really attached to Kenji, which causes Hanto to be like, I wish I didn't ask, because he's like, oh, great. Oh, I wish you would have said, no, I hate this man. I want him gone. To make things easier for him. But yeah, he just pats Hiroto on the head and like, okay, sure. Yeah, it just made the situation worse for Hanto. So we go to Shoma and Nikita, and Shoma just wanted advice from Nikita with the whole, like I said, the Hanto and Kenji situation. And he knows that Shoma wants to help Hanto, but ultimately it's Hanto's decision whether or not he's planning on killing him or not. And so Rakita confirms, like, yeah, it's ultimately Hanto's decision to make. And Shoma asked, like, what would you do if you were Hanto? And ultimately Rakita said, well, I would still kill him. Sure, if I see a part-timer who is trying to reform, quits the mafia, and just tries to live a normal life here, sure, I could turn a blind eye the same way that you did for me. But when it comes to Kamen's killer, it doesn't matter if this guy knew reformed or not. Like his life ends once I encounter this guy Newt. And he adds that this is my reason for living. This is the reason why, I decided to infiltrate the stomach company, why I was willing to join. I was willing to become a part-timer for them, willing to kidnap people, all for discovering who the killer is and to kill that said guy Newt. But this causes Shoma to ask Nikita, like, aren't you pushing yourself? And he asks, like, what do you mean by that? Because it sounds to me that you're trying to convince yourself that you are gonna do this, what you claim you're gonna be doing. And just like Hanto, I think Nikita also changed. Like the old Nikita, without question, will kill any guy new that gets in his way, and just that will lead him to the killer, right? But in this case, this Nikita is like, like I think he would have been conflicted too, just like Hanto. And he didn't know how to respond to what Shoma said to him. Like he didn't know how to respond, or he just didn't know how to, he just didn't want to answer that question. So he just decided, let's just check on Hanto, and just cop out, like having a cop out moment, because he just didn't know how to respond. And Shoma's like, okay, let's just go and find Hanto to see if it's okay. So at the store, so we go back to the store, and the candy animals are now completed, and everybody is trying them, and they're super good. And Hiruto is giving hugs to Kenji, giving him his flowers, and Hanto becomes very uncomfortable. He is very conflicted and close to feeling guilty, because he wants to kill him, but he knows that if he kills him, it will make Hiruto very sad. He knows this. And so Kenji does the nod that now is the time to face my destiny, and that's it. And so we get to the next scene, back to Shoma and Nikita, and they get ambushed by crazed Jeebh, and he shows off his new Gavv, which shocks everybody. Shoma's like, is that? Yes, this is my brand new Gavv. And to continue on, Jeebh said that I'm willing to throw away everything in order to kill you. Like he is willing to use the same powers as his evil brother in order to get revenge for the dearly departed Shita. So he transforms into bitter Gavv, French fries mode. And we get to see this match between him, Nikita, and Shoma. So as they were battling, we go to the duel of the fates with Kenji versus Hanto. They're under a bridge. You see this river, and Kenji says, "Look, I'm ready to face my crimes." And we get this flashback of Hiruto reading this note he left behind, saying that I'm going on a long journey. I don't know if I will ever return. It's pretty much saying his goodbye letter to the mother and the son. And so Kenji transforms back into his Gainute form, and he's just waiting for it to end. And Hanto starts the fight by punching him in the face. And then we immediately go back to the match between Jeebh versus Rakita and Shoma. And I have to say, him being a Kamen Rider really did help improve on his fighting skills, because he instantly deals away with Rakita, like he's out of the equation. Because every time a Kamen Rider tries to help Shoma, Jeebh just tells him, like, back off, like, I have no issues with you, and just quickly beats them up quickly, and then turns back his attention to Shoma, which he does. So he quickly defeats Rakita, and this is like his second loss since ever. And then, he goes after Shoma so viciously. He uses his French fries to, pierce through his armor, which got him stuck a little bit as, Jeebh was eliminating Rakita from the equation. And then we go back to, Hanto and Kenji. Hanto transforms into regular Valen and decides to use his final attack already on Kenji. Of course, Kenji does not move from that spot. He just waits to get, blasted. But then, you see this big old chocolate ball going past Kenji. You see explosions, and Kenji is confused as to why is he not killing him. And, Hanto demorphs and tells him, like, the Ganyu has died today. But don't misunderstand. If you commit any more crimes, I'm gonna hunt you down and put you into the ground. This is not me forgiving you. And as much as I want to avenge my mom, it's not right, because I'm not gonna hurt Hiroto. I'm not gonna be responsible for, Hiroto's pain, because Hanto knows how much Hiroto loves this man, and he doesn't want Hiroto to experience the same pain as Hanto has with, the disappearance of his mom, and also with his mentor, taken away. Like, he doesn't want that pain onto this poor kid. So he's pretty much doing it for him, for his sake. He just spared his life, warns him if he commits any crimes, then he will hunt him down, and that's it, and he turns around, takes his old drawing, tears it up, and he walks away as Kenji just drops on his knees and starts crying. Yeah, Hanto, in his own way, did forgive the monster that kidnapped Mama. Yep, he let go of his revenge and forgave him, even though I wish he could have just said the words, I forgive you. But it just goes to show how much character growth Hanto did, because the old Hanto, without a question, would have killed him instantly, and he would have found a way to justify what he did, because you can't leave this boy and the mother hanging, knowing that this guy Newt knows how to make, candy the same way, the husband makes, or it's just the store would have been in big trouble. And then, you have the boy in tears because there's no explanation as to, wait a minute, is Kenji dead? And, how? It's gonna cause a lot of problems. So Hanto did the right thing, and I'm sure his mother would have been proud of him. So as one revenge tour ends positively, we have another revenge tour that ends, terribly, because even though he gains the powers of a Kamen Rider, he still gets his ass whooped by Shoma, because there's no way he can match the powers of the final forms of Over, Gavv, and Master Gavv. Because after a couple of, speed attempts and amongst other things, we see at the end that, Shoma used his Over Gavv to punch Jeebh, and we see explosions. You see Jeebh on fire, assuming that this could be the end for Jeebh, but no, he survived the battle. You see him not on fire, but he is injured, and he just walks away all injured but not just not only he is injured physically, I'm sure his ego, his pride is also, injured, because he knows that he cannot beat Shoma. Even with this new form, he could not defeat him whatsoever, which is going to cause him to go all more crazy. And Rikita asked, you're not going after him? And Shoma said, no, I'm not going after him. And that's how the battle ends. And then we go to the office again, and, their job is fulfilled. The Wagashi store, at least their social media page, is receiving a lot of positive reviews, and they finish up their animal candies. Then they want to go back to get some more, but before they left, Hanto came in with a bag of animal candies from the same store, and as Shika was preparing the tea, Shoma asked Hanto, oh, so Kenji is alive and back at the store, I see, right? Because he notices that, hey, there's no way that Kenji would have been alive if, unless, because we see these animal candies, right? There's no way there's another cook that can make all of these unless Kenji were alive. And Hanto was like, yeah, he's alive. I spared his life. And we immediately go to the last scene. Speaking of Kenji, it was in the middle of the night. He was closing the shop, and then he gets greeted by Gota. And, Kenji is asking her to spare his life. But of course, Gota's like, no, I'm not going to spare your life. And she ends up killing him, and she leaves. And that's how the episode ends. Yeah, with Kenji gone, I wouldn't be surprised in the next episode that you're going to hear news that the Wagashi store is going to close. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be sad for Hiroto, because, he has grown attached to this man, and now that he's dead, of course, the mom is going to report, to the police that this man has been missing for some time now. He hasn't returned until Hanto or somebody else is going to report to them that he passed away. And this is where Hanto will pretty much tell the whole story about how he knew about Kenji and whatnot. But yeah, this is going to be a very sad ending for, Hiroto and the mom, because, again, I know I'm repeating myself here, but he was the only one who knew how to make candy the same way, the late husband did, the last owner. And I don't know how they're going to move forward with him being dead. And then, once the news of him being missing, I'm sure we're going to have a funny moment next week about, hey, Hanto, did you lie to me? Why is Hiroto's mom reporting him missing? You killed him, right? And Hanto would be like, no. I swear to you guys, I did not kill him. And, it will lead to, Gota being the murderer. And then, this reveal that it was her that killed Rakita's little brother, which, I mean, it all pointed to her, but ultimately I wanted to be Nave because the whole irony of it all, that Nave is the killer of, Rakita's little brother, and he was the same Ganyut that bestowed Rakita the powers of a Kamen Rider. And the sheer irony is Rakita killing Nave with those same powers he gave him years ago, months ago. It would have been poetic justice. But no, the writers decided to, let the murder be Gota. And yeah, it's a good episode. Well, it's a bittersweet episode because for one thing, it tells a story about revenge, and Hanto pretty much like let go of his, anger and his desire for revenge and decides to forgive Kenji, because I think that's something that his mother would have wanted him to do, not kill him. And with him not killing him, Hanto is free from that pain. He is free to move forward with his life, and just, he's not crazy compared to crazy Jeebh, who now will become more crazier than ever. And I'm sure he's going to blame Nave for, hey, like, you gave me this stupid Gavv. I couldn't defeat him still, so it's all your fault. I'm sure he's going to blame other people for his failures. It's just goes to show that revenge is never justified. Jeebh is throwing away everything in order to get his revenge, but ultimately if he still continues on this revenge tour, he will end up dead. Or worse, he will live but ends up becoming a crazy Ganyut on the streets. Yep, there's fates far worse than death. But going back to what I said earlier about revenge is never justified. Because it isn't. Revenge isn't justified because nothing is going to bring that said person back from the dead. No. It's just inflicting more pain. And it reminds me of Callisto and Xena. Because Callisto for years wanted revenge upon Xena for killing her entire family, and once she got her revenge, she assumed that her pain would be gone and she would be, at peace. But at the end she didn't felt any better. She felt empty at the end, and that was it. I'm happy that Hanto, didn't take Kenji's life. And it just goes to show again how much Hanto changed for the better. I'm sure his mother would have been very proud of him. And I like this new Hanto, because the old Hanto would have been like, yeah, it doesn't matter if there's good Ganyuts or bad ones. They're evil and they need to be put to the ground. And but he admitted to Shoma and Sashika that if it weren't for him and Rakita, then he would have still had the same attitude as before. And he changed because of them. And character growth, and I enjoy it. And Jeebh is crazy, still wearing Shita's old skin, which is creepy as hell, and now he's gonna be more crazy than ever because he lost once again. And he's just gonna be haunted by Shita's ghost once more. He's gonna get nightmares. Yeah, it's gonna be insane. Yeah. So again, revenge is never justified, and it's gonna inflict more pain until there's nothing left. And that's the thing about revenge. It's all about forgiveness, and it's hard to forgive someone who did you harm, because we have this belief that by forgiving them, you're just accepting what happened. It's like giving this person that did you harm a pass, that there's no like justice. But ultimately, karma exists, and forgiving someone is not about the person that did you harm. It's all about, the person who got harmed, and just letting go. Because what's the point of harboring so much pain and anger, and you want to inflict pain on the person that did you harm, but it just causes more pain. It's just no point. It's all about, you letting go and being at peace. And Hanto has achieved that peace by forgiving him. And unlike Jeebh, which is, he's going to end up dead and on this revenge tour. Dead. And Kenji, well, sad what happened to him. I don't know what's going to happen to the store now that he is dead. And of course, either the mom or Hayato is gonna go to the office and tell Shoma and Sashika that Kenji has gone missing. He hasn't come to work in days, and he's worried, and he's gonna get the bad news that he is dead, and it's gonna be very sad. And with Rikita, I think Rikita will have the same problem, but it's revealed that Gota is the one, so he doesn't need to forgive her. Like, he's gonna end her. That's it. It's done. It's over. He's not gonna forgive her, and Gota is not willing to reform. So, yep. We all know the fate of what's gonna happen to every single Stubbick family member. They're gonna end up being dead by the end of this season. And yeah, I think that's all I have for this episode, because if I continue on talking, then I will start to ramble. So have you seen the episode, which I hope you guys did? Give me your thoughts and opinions about it. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Did I miss anything? Even though I have my notes in front of me, I may have missed a couple of things. Did you like how Hanto dealt with his revenge? Like, do you like it, or do you prefer the old Hanto and just like, nah, you're dead, I don't care? And do you like Jeebh's new Kamen Rider form? I mean, it's okay. I mean, I don't care about it. I mean, the OG Bitter Gavv will always be the one for me. But just give me your thoughts and opinions about the suit as well. And give a like if you like it, and please subscribe. And I will see you all on the other side of Oblivion. Johnny.